long it takes. All right, so let's talk real quick about a bunch of stuff. But we got to be quick because we got a long lesson today. All right, here's the way the rest of the year is going to go, because I know you guys are like, oh, how many tests, how many more quizzes? Now, I will tell you, typically, the test goes better than the first quiz. So typically, scores go up on the Chapter 10 test from the Chapter 10 1 to 10 3 quiz. So typically, that is historically how things have gone. You will have a test over Chapter 10, and you will have a quiz over Chapter 12. That's what we have left in this 9 weeks. You will have an exam. Your exam is just on the second semester material. I will give you a practice exam. You guys know how that works. I have the whole rest of the year planned out, and we do not have an extra day. Okay? Don't have an extra day. Because of that, guys, I have so many different AP tests. I have AP Art History. I have AP European History. I have AP Lang. I have AP Microeconomics. And I have AP US History. I cannot stop for 6 days and do nothing. I cannot do that. But I have the utmost respect that math is not the important thing that night before your test, your AP tests. So if you are taking an AP test, I will not expect your math homework to be done that next day. Okay, that the day that you have your AP test. If you are a sophomore, okay. So let me go through the way we're gonna do. We're gonna do law of science today. Monday is AP Micro. You guys, a handful of you will miss, and that's great that you've already told me that, and I will give you your worksheet, and whenever you get it done, you get it done, okay? Get caught up when you have time to get caught up. Spend time this weekend focusing on AP Micro, okay? Then, Tuesday is law of cosines. Wednesday is a trig review. We will have a practice test for homework. Thursday, we will go over that practice test, and Friday is our test. Now, I know my AP US History is okay, I would never make you take my test the same day as the AP US History test, so just chill right now about that, okay? Because I know sophomores are not excused from school. You guys have to stay in school if you take AP US History. They changed that?
Yeah. Mr. Hoover told us we were excused to go.
Okay, hang on, honey.
Who's on the AP history?
Hey, no.
Okay, I'll have to get verification on that. Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay, if you're excused, you're excused. If you're not excused, you are not taking my test next Friday. Okay? So if you're not excused, you will come in on next Friday and you will take you will not take the test. I will give you the notes for 12-1, which is simple matrix operations, and you will take the notes on 12-1. Then on Monday, when the rest of us are taking the notes on 12-1, you guys will take your trade test. Does that make sense how we're going to do that? So you will just take it the following Monday. 12-1 is really easy. It's like super easy section. Okay? And then we finish up 12-1, 12-2, 12-3, 12-3, 12-4. Review test on Tuesday the 20th. And then exam review. And then that Friday starts exams. Not for you guys, but for my 8th period class. Okay? And that's it. Questions? All right. So let's take a look at law of sines. You guys learned law of sines last year. Do you remember law of sines at all? No? Okay. Well, I teach it like you've never seen it before. I have a feeling once I teach it to you, you'll be like, oh yeah, now I remember this. Not 2 years ago. You learned this last year with Mrs. Wook or Mr. Rutan. Huh?
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Breaking packet.
So, let's look at this first part up here. Do you have your graphing calculator? This first part up here says a sail maker is designing a sail that will have the following dimensions as shown in this diagram. Okay? Based on these dimensions, the sail maker can determine the amount of fabric we need. Well, the amount of fabric would be the area. We know the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. I have the base, but I don't have the what? Height. Okay? So, I need to find the height. But notice, I have this triangle here. Do you guys see this triangle here? Okay? If I pull that triangle off, I have this. I'd have this angle here. I have this side here, 2.96. Can I find the height? Yeah, what are you going to do to find the height? The sine of, okay, so I'm going to just make it instead, I'm going to use letters. So sine of angle A is equal to the opposite H over the hypotenuse. C, how would you solve for H? Multiply both sides by C, and you get C times the sine of A equals H. So going back to your formula, area equals 1/2 base times the height. I have what area equals 1/2 the base times the height, which is C sine of A. You guys see how I just plugged in all I did was plug in what I got here for H. So my area is 1/2 BC sine of A. Notice, B is this side, or B is this side, C is this side, A is the included angle. So you are always going to just take 1/2 side times the sine of the included angle. That's how you find the area. Okay? So, let's go here. Remember when we are dealing with a triangle, if this is angle A, where is side A? Opposite. If this is angle B, this would be side B. If this is angle C, this is side C. Okay? What do we have here? Okay, so we can do it from any angle. So let's just look. I didn't even label this. You don't need labels. It says find the area. So the area is 1/2 side times the sine of the included angle. So what am I going to multiply here? Let's go to Landon. You're going to say 1/2 of what?
5 times 3
Times
40.
Times the sine of 40. Good. Always just double check. We're in degree mode, so that's good. I'm going to do 0.5 times 5 times 3 times the sine of 40. Yeah, you're all going to need calculators today. And to the nearest tenth, what did you all get? 4.8. And the units would be what? Meters squared. Very good. Okay. First part of your homework tonight is going to be find some area. 1/2 side times the sine of the included angle. Are we good? Good? Okay. Now, law of sines. We can use the fact, going back here, I could say 1/2 B times C times the sine of A. Or I could say 1/2 A times C times the sine of B. Or I could do 1/2 A times B times the sine of C. I could do any one of those depending on which sides and which angle I had. And they would all give me the area. So all of these expressions would be equal. Do you guys agree with that? Okay. So coming back here, we can say that 1/2 BC sine of A is equal to 1/2 AC sine of B, which is equal to 1/2 AB sine of C. And now if I want the fractions, pretend for a minute that you only had this equation. What would you do to get the fractions to go away? Multiply each one by 2, okay? But I have 3 equations, so I'm going to multiply all 3 of them by 2. Whatever you do to one side, you do to all sides. All of those cancel. So when you do, you get BC sine of A equals AC sine of B equals AB sine of C. And now I'm just going to divide. I'm allowed to divide. As long as I divide everything by the same non-zero number, I'm allowed to do that. So I am now going to divide everything by ABC. Okay? When I divide everything by ABC, the BC's cancel, the AC's cancel, and the AB's cancel. So I'm left with the sine of angle A over A equals the sine of angle B over B, which equals the sine of angle C over C. So I am going to guess that possibly last year you were just given this ratios. That's the law of sines. The sine of angle A is the side A, as the sine of angle B is the side B, as the sine of angle C is the side C. Now that you guys have seen this, does it kind of jog some memories? No. Okay. I know you learned it last year. Okay. I know y'all learned it last year. This works really well if you have angle, angle, side, or angle, side, angle. It works when you have side, side, angle, but it has an issue. And we'll talk about that issue in a few minutes. Okay, let's first start with this triangle. Remember when it says solve the triangle, we're looking for all missing angles and all missing sides. So I always start by coming off to the side and saying, what am I missing? I'm missing angle, E, side, D, and side what? E. So I'm missing side D and side E. So these are the 3 pieces that I am missing. All right, how are you guys going to find angle E? What do we do to find angle E? Okay, I'll call on someone. Caleb. Caleb, how many degrees are in an entire triangle? 180. So you're going to do 180 and what? Well, what's one of the angles? What's the other angle? So how do you find the third one? Okay, you can add them together and subtract, or subtract 33 and subtract 28. Same thing. Okay, and when you do, I got this. So I can say angle E is what? 119 degrees. Now be careful, guys. Are you allowed to use SOHCAHTOA on this triangle? Why not? Not a right triangle. You don't have a hypotenuse. Okay, you cannot use SOHCAHTOA. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look for a ratio. So, for example, I see that I have this angle and its corresponding side. So I can say the sine of 28 degrees is to its corresponding side 15. So sine of 28 is to 15 as, and it doesn't matter which one you solve for. Which one do you want to do next there, Caleb? D. So D is angle D. So you're going to tell me sine of is to side B. Now, this is just a proportion. How do you solve proportions? Okay, butterfly, cross multiply, right? So, Caleb, when you cross multiply, you get D times the equals. And then over here, no. Over here, what do you get? Don't use a calculator yet. Yes. Now, guys, I'm going to encourage you to do the 15 in the front. And here's why. Here's why. If you put the 15 in the back, okay, is it this? Okay, or is it this? And sometimes it's not that. Okay, and sometimes if you're not careful with your parentheses and don't close that, we get lazy with closing those parentheses. That's wrong. You know, it can be wrong. So I never put my 15 on that right side. I always put my 15 on the left. Then I'm not wrong. Okay, finish it off for me, Caleb. What am I going to do to get D by itself? You have to do what? Divide by sine of 28. So I get D equals. So I'm going to grab my calculator. 15 sine of 33. I like to hit enter. And then divide by sine of 28. And what'd you get? 17.4. Okay, 17. And we're going to go to a tenths on this. So I like that he said 17.4. All right, are we good? Now, on this next one, when I switch to E, technically I could use sine of 33 is to 17.4, but I caution you for two reasons. It's not completely accurate because it's not exactly 17.4. We rounded. And if you did something stupid and missed D, are you going to miss E? Yeah. So I always go back to what I call the given information. So the given ratio was 28 and 15. So Natalie, we're going to say for this next ratio, again, the sine of 28 is to 15 as the
Sine of 119 is
to E. Okay, perfect. And now when you cross multiply, you're going to multiply what?
E times sine of 28 and then 15 times sine of 119.
Okay, and then what do you divide by?
Sine of 8.
Okay. Oh. All right. So you're going to take your calculator, do 15 times the sine of 119. I like to hit enter, and then divide by the sine of 28. And what do you get for an answer, Natalie?
27.9.
27.9. So E is 27.9. How do we do on that one? Yeah, it's not bad. Do you guys remember this at all from last year? A little bit? Okay.
See, what is this?
All right. So when you have, notice you were given angle, side. Angle, side. So that worked out pretty easy. There is something that you did not learn last year called the ambiguous case. Now, the way the book teaches the ambiguous case, I think is so confusing. All right? Here's how I teach the ambiguous case. If you have side angle, which I always tell my students, ooh, side angle, caution, bad word. Okay, if you spell it backwards, it's a bad word. Okay? Okay, so if you have angle side, that's a bad word. That's a bad problem. We've got to be careful. And here's why. Remember, the things that are given, the things that are set that you cannot change is one angle, a side, and the next side. So let's think about this. I have an angle. So this angle is set. How long this side is not set. We have the first angle. This side is set. and this third side is set. So this third side might come down like this, but it might come down like that. Do you see how it can swing? So we might have two different triangles. We could have two triangles because it can pivot. It can pivot. Now you still might have one. You might just have one triangle. Second case might not exist. You might have a situation where this angle is set, this side is set, this side is only this long. And no matter how many ways you swing it, is it ever going to reach to form a triangle? No. So in this case, there are no triangles. Okay? And then you might have a case in which case you only have one triangle. It only fits angle, side, side. It doesn't pivot. However it works, it just doesn't pivot. Actually, yeah. Anyway. Okay. Are we good? Let's just see what this looks like. Determine the number of triangular banners that can be formed when we know side A is 50, side B is 20, and the measure of angle A is 28. Okay? So we're going to draw a triangle. Okay? We're going to draw a triangle. And I'm going to draw my triangle like this. This is not drawn to scale. A, B, C. Not drawn to scale. Just draw a triangle. And I'm going to say, we know, what do we know? We know angle A is 28. We know side A, which is opposite of angle A, would be 50. And we know side B is 20. So we have to be careful because this is angle, side, side. So we could have no triangles, one triangle, or two triangles. When this happens, you have to check for the ambiguous case. And I'll show you what we mean here in a minute. All right. If this is the triangle that I am given, what are the missing pieces? I am missing angle B, angle C, and side what? C. So those are the three parts that I am missing. All right, well, what do I have as a ratio? A. I know the sine of 28 is to what? 50. So I can say right here, the sine of 28 is to 50 as the sine of B is to what? 20. Okay, so as the sine of angle B is to 20. Is everybody okay with how I set that up?
Yes.
All right, now we got to solve it. So when I cross multiply, I'm going to do 50 times what? Sine of B, and then I'm going to do 20 times the sine of 28. Now, what are you going to divide by? Remember, you're trying to get your variable by itself, so what are you guys going to divide by? 50. So I'm going to divide both sides by 50. When I do, I'm left with the sine of angle B is equal to. All right, well, 20 sine of 28 divided by 50. I get what number? Okay, I'm going to put 0.1878. 0.1878. But I'm going to leave that number on my calculator. So don't touch your calculators. We want to leave that on there. Now, how do I solve for B? Inverse. Okay, so B is equal to the inverse sine. Now, before you do that on your calculator, guys, because this happens tonight and everybody comes up and says, I couldn't get this one to work. Can you take the inverse sine of a number bigger than 1 or smaller than -1? Okay, so if you're trying to take the inverse sine of 1.3, it does not exist. So what does that mean? There's no triangles. That's the case, okay? If you take the inverse sine of 1.3, that's this case right here. There's no triangles that exist right here, okay? So just watch that tonight. I think that happens on one of them. When you do inverse sine, it's going to be a number bigger than one. You're going to be like, oh, that one doesn't work. No triangles. And you're done. You would just say no triangles. Okay? Well, this one, obviously, we can take the inverse sine. When you do second sine of second answer, use second answer. Because it's not 0.1878. It's 0.1877886. Okay, so use second answer. And what do you guys get for your B? Okay, so angle B is 10.8 degrees. Are you guys good with that? So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to fill that in up here. I know B is 10.8 degrees. B is 10.8 degrees. How do I find angle C? 180 minus 10.8 minus 28. And what do you guys get left over for angle C? 141.2. 141.2 degrees. Okay. So that means this is 141.2. Now, I have to use that value because that's the only way I can find C. So now let's set up our ratio to find side C. What ratio would you use to find side C? Sorry. Paige? Sine of 28 is to 50 as?
Sine of 141.2.
Good. Sine of 28 is to 50 as the sine of 141.2 is to C. Cross multiply.
50 times sine of 141.2. And C times sine of 28.
Okay. Divide both sides by? Okay. And what do you get for C? So she's way ahead of me. 50 sine of 141.2. Enter. Oh, divided by sine of 28. And what did you say you got? 66.7. Good. All right. And you would like to say I'm done? You done? Okay. But are we done? Because be careful. We had angle side side.
Oh, yeah.
Where we know there's one case, but there could be a second case. Okay? This angle could swing in like this. It might look like this. It might be 28, it might be 20, and it might be 50. Here's where I get confusion on. Everybody says, I never know which angle to do the ambiguous case. Right here, you told your calculator, tell me the angle where the sine is positive 0.18. You said, calculator, tell me the angle where the sine is positive 0.18. And your calculator told you 10.8. Where else is sine positive? See why we did those problems. Where else is sine positive? Not restricted. Where else is it positive? You said, where is sine positive? Sine is also positive over here. So, angle B could be here. Could be over here. If it's over here, what's this angle? 10.8. So what could angle B be? Okay, well, how do we figure this out? We're going to take what? 180 minus what? 10.8. And what do you have left? 169.2. 2. Okay, does everybody see how I got what the other angle B could be? All right, so I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to say, okay, that means angle B could be 169.8. So what's angle C? Well, if I put 169.8, what does that leave left for C? Okay, 180 minus 169.8 minus 28. Uh-oh, what happens? Do you have enough left over for angle C? There is nothing left. So in this case, there is only one triangle. What's that?
You have to do that on every single one of them.
Any single one that's angle side side.
Oh.
If it's, we didn't have to do that back here because we did not do inverse sine to find any of the angles. If you use inverse sine, you have to be careful because sine is positive here and here. So it could be this angle. That's the one the calculator is going to give you, but it also could be this angle. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes. What's that? Okay. I went back to my. I said we knew angle A was 28. We calculated the other case for angle B to be 169. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do 180 minus 28 minus 169.8. And I was left with negative 17. You can't have it. You already are over 180 degrees with your two angles. So you're done. You can't have that second case. So let's look at a case where we do have two triangles. Oh my gosh. All right. Ready? This one is going to have two cases. A, B, C. A is 39 degrees. Side A is 14. Side B is 20. Okay. In case 1, what am I solving for? I'm going to call this case 1. I'm missing angle B, angle C, and side C. All right. Help me set up the proportion, Olivia. Sine of 39 is to as is to 20. Okay, so sine of 39 is to 14 as the sine of B is to 20. Perfect. Cross multiply 14 times the sine of B, 20 times the sine of 39. What are you going to divide by? 14. So I'm going to get sine of B equals, and I'm going to take my calculator. I'm going to do 20 sine of 39. Hit enter, divide it by 14. Did I get a number between negative 1 and 1? So I'm good. 0.899. How do you find angle B? You take the what? Inverse sine of 0.8. Anytime you do inverse sine, here's where your ambiguous case is going to be. So inverse sine, second angle, or answer. And what do we get for this angle? Angle B is what? 64.0. Is everybody okay getting angle B? So angle B is 64.0. So I'm just going to put 64. How would I find angle C? Okay, I'm going to do 180 minus 64 minus 39. And I get 77. Now, for the sake of time, how would I just set up my last proportion to find side C? Sine of 39 is to 14 as the sine of. Okay, so the sine of 39 is to 14 as the sine of 77 is to C. And for the sake of time, would you guys just trust me that it's 21.7? Okay? 21.7. So I think you guys are good at solving that. Are you good at solving that? Now, we started with angle side side. We used inverse sine. Anytime you use inverse sine, you have to be careful. Because we know there could be two triangles. This could have gone, I hate when that jumps like that. Okay, it could go like this. It could be A, B, C. This is 39 degrees. This is still 20. This is still 14. This is still C. Let's see if we have a case 2. I need angle B, angle C, side C. Let's see if we can do it. Now, how do I know which one has the ambiguous case? Well, which one did you use inverse sine? Angle B. And on angle B, your calculator told you 64 degrees. Where else is sine positive? Quadrant. It's always going to be quadrant 2. We need that angle. We know that this is 64. So what else could angle B be?
16.
Okay, 180 minus 64 is 116. Huh. Okay, so angle B could be 116. So let's see, 116. Do I now have enough left over for angle C? How do you know? What'd you guys do? 180, subtract 116, subtract the given, which was 39. 180 minus 39 minus 116. And what'd you guys get left over for angle C? Do you guys see we have 25 left over? And now what proportion would you guys set up for side C? Sine of, that looks like a 1, I'm going to fix that. Sine of 39 is to 14 as the, sine of 39 is to 14 as the sine of 25 is to C. And when you solve this one, you get 9.4. So you notice it's a lot smaller. So this one did have 2 triangles. All right. Questions? Yeah, not a light Friday lesson. Here's your homework, guys. Please note, you are doing the evens. You are not doing all of this on a separate paper. There's so much work to show for these separate sheet of paper. Oh, yes. Sorry.
Do you have to finish Spanish today?
No, the reading.
You have to finish the reading today?
What's that? Yeah, there's still a lot.
I wish I could just like get on my laptop and I had 2 hours.
Oh, that's torture.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.